So we're going to go over Safari, and we're going to do a bunch of tips and tricks on Safari and search, and then we're going to touch whatever time left we have at the end in the second part is going to be getting into mail. So I'm also going to touch on some of the things we've recently, who's had the big pop-up that says you should call this 800 number and your computer's been infected. Anybody had that? Wow, surprising. I get a lot of calls with that one. So. Most of the things I'm going to talk about is going to be Mac, and it also goes over to iOS, and then at the end of the Safari presentation, I'm going to go into some iOS specific things. So first and foremost, Safari is the built-in browser for the Mac, and it gets better all the time, and it's the one browser you should use. It's not a bad idea to have Chrome as a secondary backup. Those of you that are on older Mac operating systems, you may have to use Chrome because a bank site may say, hey, I want you to use a modern browser. So Chrome is Google Chrome, it's free. The third alternative would be Firefox, and Firefox is out there and pretty good too. Is anybody here not using Safari as their default browser? How come?
I just like Firefox.
What is it that makes you like Firefox? Is it just the familiarity? Okay, you should use Safari. How about you? Which one are you using? And any reason?
My bank said we should use Chrome.
And your bank is always out for your best interest, aren't they? Because usually if you call the bank, they say, oh, you're on a Mac? I'm sorry. Did they know you were on a Mac?
I didn't have a conversation.
See, if you're on a PC, they would encourage someone to use Chrome because it's a very good browser. Chrome and Safari are fine. What happens, the difference is, Safari, things we can do in Safari because it's integrated with everything on the Mac. I'm going to show you a lot of tricks and tips and stuff. And I'm going to try and entice you to use Safari because of some of the things that I'm going to show you that make it integrate with the Mac. But the other thing is that it on a PC world, people were using Explorer, and it's a very terrible web browser for security and stuff. So Windows people, they tell to use Chrome. Safari will probably work for most bank sites if you're using modern operating system. Yosemite or El Capitan, it should work fine with all of those. But if you run into a site that says it has problems with it, go ahead and have Chrome. I like to have a secondary browser. I've got it right next to Safari on my dock, so I can use it if I want. The problem with Chrome is, once you fire up Chrome, it uses a tremendous amount of your system resources. Where Safari has this ability to only worry about the page that's open and put everything else kind of in hibernation, so it doesn't sit there and take up all these processor cycles. Why do you care about processor cycles? It's not electricity. What it really is when you're trying to do other stuff on your computer, it may slow it down and lag it down. The equivalent of having 5, 6, 7 programs open at any one time. So if you use Chrome as an alternate, once you fire it up, then shut it back down. Okay? And Chrome is one of the ones too. If you've got some deals, we're going to talk about Adobe Flash. If you're having problems with seeing sites because of Adobe Flash, first of all, it's a lazy web designer because Flash is going away. Thank God, because Flash really Flash is a way to see videos. YouTube doesn't require it anymore. Facebook doesn't require it anymore. But if you have a site that has to use Flash, go ahead and use Chrome because what it does is it sandboxes the Flash so there can be no vulnerabilities there. Okay. Nobody has had any of these pop-ups that we talk about. So I've got some information. Well, Charles, we know you and we took care of that, and it may still come back. But in the most recent newsletter, I have stuff in there about Adware Medic and Malware Bytes and what you can do if you have the pop-ups rather than spending time here with it today. You haven't been hacked. Your browser's been hijacked, and it's really easy to fix. Okay. Many times, if you go to download Adobe Flash, it says you need Adobe Flash. Well, it takes you to a site that's not Adobe Flash and gives you stuff you don't want. And it can infect your computer. It can just cause pop-ups and things like that. Again, on the Mac, you're impervious to those things. All right. I'm going to go through the system, or not the system preferences, but the preferences in Safari to show you a couple things here. So first up, and somebody had their hand up a second ago. Did I miss?
Well, one thing I had heard about Chrome, and I don't know if this is like conspiracy theory or whatever, but I mean, there were some articles from some, reputable people there that said that they can actually listen to you from Chrome.
Not on a Mac.
Not on a Mac, but on a PC they could.
Possibly. But you know what? All this fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there, and most of this is by journalists that get paid by you clicking on the article, so it's called clickbait. And don't be susceptible. I mean, take clickbait for what it is. I mean, you've seen these pictures. Oh, you do this thing is the greatest video ever seen, and you click on it, and all they're doing is getting ad clicks on that. Okay, so it's the price we pay with having a free internet. It's the price we pay for having free email. You get spam and things like that. So, just remember you're on a Mac. You shouldn't worry. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt should be the farthest thing from your mind. So anyway, if we go up to Safari and we come down to Preferences, this opens up this pane, P-A-N-E, not P-A-I-N. And you've got across the top, General, Tabs, Autofill, Passwords, Search, Security, Privacy, Notifications, Extensions, and Advanced. Well, in this first page, General, this is all pretty standard, but this is where you would set what you want to be your home page. Google News, things like this. Some of these little browser hijackings that happen is they may replace your home page with something else so that they get ad clicks out of it. So you can look at that and see what it is. Or you navigate to the page and say set to current page. Everything else in here I would just leave like it is by default. Okay? Tabs, same thing. There's no reason to change anything here. We're going to talk about tab browsing in a second. Autofill, at some point on the Mac, was off by default. It was on by default, then it was off by default, and now it's back on by default. Autofill is that thing where if you go to a form and there's an address there that it wants you to fill out. Now, who doesn't have it automatically fill in for them?
Mine worked, and all of a sudden
So check your autofill, and I'll tell you something else to check in a second. But at first that was kind of spooky. It was like, Big Brother, how do they know where I live? Well, all this does is it reaches into your address book, your contacts on your computer, and says, oh, give me that information for your address. So it's not even out over the internet. It's just reaching from Safari into your address book and say, fill in this information. So it's another great reason to make sure in your contacts that you have your information in your contacts. Go ahead.
I have that, and I took it off for my online banking. So is that,
No, you can't specifically turn it off or on with a certain site.
I did.
No, you can't do it for a specific site.
Oh, it asked me if I want, and
No, it asks you if you want to autofill the password and the username,
yes.
not all your address and everything. We're going to get
Yes.
into passwords in a second.
Yes.
So let me go to contacts, because this is a second portion. So if you look at here, it says, using info from my contacts card. And if I click edit, it takes me to my contacts. Now, what I want to show you though is within your contacts, you'll notice that this one that says Ken Spencer has a silhouette by it. It's not because we're at a pistol range and we want to go ahead and shoot me. But that shows that it's what's called my card. And how you do that is you find your card here and you go up to the word card and you say, make this my card. And when you signify that it's the my card, the your card, the my card, that's what it's going to go look for there. And then, of course, that syncs with all your other devices, and the same thing happens on your iOS devices. So the My Card, and that's why it's important also, if I didn't have my address in here, it wouldn't fill my address. If I didn't have my email address in there, it wouldn't autofill that, and it wouldn't autofill the phone number. So it's really important to establish a My Card. You probably did when you set up your computer, so look for your name and go in and then make it your My Card. And as you get into the iPhone and things, that's something that's important because Siri uses that. When you go to Siri and say, take me home, if you don't have your address in the My Card, how's it going to know where to take you home? It's going to say, you want to buy a house?
Can you have two
No.
My cards?
No, but you can have multiple addresses in the My Card.
Yeah.
So what would be your reason to have two?
A business and a home.
So what you do in the My Card, you can set up another address that's your work address. And then when you go to fill it in, you can usually determine which one it is. It gets a little bit touchy. I've cleaned up my Card just for autofill. I have a secondary card that has a bunch of my other information on it because I have multiple.
Names up there with Ken Spencer.
Yeah, but you can only have one My Card. Only have one My Card. So go ahead.
Is this, Princess is only available and workable on the laptop, on the Mac? You can't do it on the iPad?
No, it's on the iPad also.
Well, it's not the same format.
No, we'll get to it in a minute. We'll get to it in just a minute. I'll get to it in just a minute.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So if we go into the preferences, so that's the contacts. The other thing you want to be able to autofill is usernames and passwords. Can anybody give me a valid reason why not to have it fill in your passwords for you? Okay, a non-valid reason.
If other people use your computer.
Yeah, but don't you have a login password on your computer? Okay.
That's usually our computers usually run.
So if that's an issue, then you'd want to make sure you have a login or a login password that would come in after a certain amount of time it could go in. Carol?
Would it fill in passwords and usernames for one password?
That's a separate program. We're not going to talk about it.
Okay, but.
This is using the keychain.
Okay.
And Apple's keychain is the best password manager there is because it syncs across all your devices.
I just have a lot of problems with this where keychain was like giving my thing for one bank, for Fidelity, they were giving me another bank's information, and actually Apple told me to go into autofill, get rid of everything that's
And start from
in
scratch.
autofill and begin again.
Yeah, that happens when it gets a little corrupted, and it's actually what happens is that people have a tendency to. So here's the problem. Has anybody here never had a problem with their passwords? Because you should be teaching a class, if so. And I'm teaching class, and I've had trouble with my passwords. So what happens is many times, if you don't have autofill, you'll go in and you'll type in a password, and it'll ask you if you want to save it or want to update it. And you're putting in a password that's not the correct one. Whereas if you've told it to autofill, it's going to go ahead and put the password in for you. No muss, no fuss. Now,
But mine wasn't doing that with every single
you
one.
had a special case, so you reset it, and now it'll be fine. So going forward, continue to use it.
But I'm gonna have to go through every single.
One time.
Every single site.
One time.
Okay. And
But
get rid of
trust
all-
me,
Uh-huh.
Apple's not always the best place to go to have those things fixed. I had a client just yesterday who had an issue with one of his calendars not showing up on his iPhone, and it showed up everywhere else, and it was the work calendar. Apple's suggestion was he needs to wipe out his computer completely and reinstall everything.
No.
It was a simple matter of me grabbing his iPhone and go, oh, okay, and I did some testing, and okay, well, this is the problem. I went into his calendars app on his phone and just had to say, oh, this calendar needs to be displayed. That was it. So they're under a bit of time constraint there, and there's keychain first aid. There's some other things that can happen. Explore all your avenues first. The keychain can get corrupted, but it's pretty rare.
Is keychain better to use than 1Pass?
Yes.
Word?
Yes. You don't agree?
No, I don't know because I use 1Password
So-
all the time.
Well, but it doesn't obviate using keychain. But the thing is that, for instance, one of the password pro companies just got sold. Another one went out of business. And I think Apple's going to be around for a while. And Apple's keychain syncing works very well. So why introduce a third party? I've never done LastPass. I've never done 1Password. I've never needed to. I'm lucky because I have eidetic memory, so I remember passwords. But there's, I just think that it's. I think Apple's password manager is the best. No muss, no fuss. Doesn't cost you anything. And it's getting better all the time because of now the iCloud password. And there's no more secure password manager than keychain.
Can you, when you're in the keychain, can you go into the keychain and see what the password is?
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to.
You can actually see what the password is.
Yeah, I'm going to show you two places where you can do that because Safari kind of has its own keychain right now. And the tech support calls I get, the majority of those are for passwords. And you guys first, go to kenspencer.com and click on Mac Sheets and download this password paper and have it and keep it up to date, okay? We're all getting older. Our mind isn't getting any better. But what happens if while you're at this class today, a meteorite comes down here and hits this building and your family has to go in and go into your bank account for you? Okay? So write it down. Keep it in a secure place. We all know, everybody has an iMac, that little thing across the bottom. That's to put sticky notes with your passwords, right? That's why that's there.
That's why they put it there.
It's exactly why they put it there. There was no other functional reason for that. So, also, you have the ability for Safari to store your credit cards. Go ahead.
If you autofill passwords and credit cards, and you have several people who use the machine, you pretty much have to always log out of that user when you're finished.
If you have several people using the machine, they should have separate users on the machine.
And you have to log out of yours.
Well, no, you don't have to log out because if you have a password on your user, once they switch to the other user, to get back to your user, they have to do in. Don't log out because it shuts down everything you're doing. You can switch users, but for them to get back to your user, they have to, or for you to get back to your user, you have to use your login password. So don't log out because then if you're in the middle of writing a document or an email and somebody else wants to get down to the computer, swap to their user. Then when you come back, yours is left right where you were. So multiple users is the best way, and this is a great reason. You're going to have separate bookmarks, you're going to have separate photos, you're going to have separate things. So multiple users is the best way to do that. But yeah, and again, this is a reason to have a login password. I, for years, did not have a login password on my computer. I live alone. It makes it easy. It's not that big a deal. But if someone were to get a hold of my computer, once it fires up, it requires a login password. So
On autofill, is it universal? Every website it assumes the same information? Or because if you don't have
no, my autofill for Amazon. Well, okay. Talking about autofill for password or autofill for my card?
passwords,
No, Amazon has its own password.
and it knows that when you're on that site.
Of course. And that's how it stores it. You'll see in a second, Robert.
How do you switch users?
So I don't have two users set up on this computer. If you have multiple users set up on the computer, there'll be a name up in the upper right-hand corner. You click on it, and it just flops to the other user. if I've had my MacBook Pro here, I have 6 users on that machine because I have different demo users and things. This is my little new Mac Pro, so it doesn't do it. So let me show you what, getting to credit cards. Now, storing your credit cards in here is very secure. There's no way anyone can get in to view those credit cards. Even if it starts to autofill, yeah, they could buy something, but they're still not going to see your credit card number. They're only going to see the last 4 digits. But to get in and find out what those are, they have to have your user password. But many times you'll go to a website and say, hey, do you want us to store your password for you? Don't do that. Never have a vendor store your credit card, with the exception of Apple or Amazon. There's probably a few others. Because if they get hacked, your credit card number gets hacked. More and more places like Target Online allows you to use Apple Pay and stuff. It doesn't really store your credit card number. It stores a representation of your credit card number. So I'd rather have the computer store it, and then when I go to a website that wants my credit card, it just fills it in, and it still asks you for the CVV code, the security code. You still have to put that part in. So that's the only part you have to remember. Okay? And the other one is other forms. Don't worry about that right now. But I'm going to show you usernames and passwords. So I'm going to hit edit. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. So, I don't use Allstate anymore. So here's Allstate. So here's allstate.com. And it's a bunch of dots. So if I click on Allstate, and I click on show password for selected website. Oh, it says you better go get whoever owns this computer. I got to put in their password. Not the password for Allstate, the password for my computer. And now you'll see that my password for Allstate showed up. So this is how, and I accidentally clicked on it and I could modify it, but you never want to modify it here. Let's use Allstate as an example. Let's say I went into allstate.com and I decided to change my password in allstate.com. I changed my password there, and next time I go to allstate.com, it's going to try put in the old password. Usually, when you put in a new password, it'll say, do you want to update the password? And you do that, and it updates it in the keychain, both in Safari and in the other keychain. My protocol is, if I go somewhere and I change my password in the website, I don't change it on my computer because that does nothing. That's the equivalent of walking home with a brand new key and assuming it'll fit in the lock. Well, no, only if you change the locks and the locksmith gives you a new key, will that new key work in those locks. So I immediately, if I change my password at any site, I immediately log out of that site, say sign out, and sign right back in because the password is fresh in my mind, and type my new password in, and then I say either save or update. Keychain used to store all your old passwords. Now what it does is just keeps the most current password for whatever site you're going to. But you can see here how the passwords are associated with each specific site. Okay? Yeah.
The advantages of one password versus multiple passwords.
Let's stop talking about one password. Don't use it. Use iCloud. Keychain. It's built in. Why make more work for yourself? Why manage? Why learn another system?
I haven't used keychain.
Yeah, well, you don't have to use Keychain. It's automatic.
What do you mean on the autofill?
No, and when you go to a website, it says, do you want to save this password? And you say yes. That's how tough it is.
Well, I've done that, but I guess
Then you've used it. See, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is, don't make more work for yourself. It's kind of like people say, well, Ken, the cloud, I don't know, I'm using the cloud. Yeah, you're using the cloud, you just don't know it. That's the beauty of Apple products. It's all integrated. If it asks you to save a password, let it save the password. Okay? There's extensions for LastPass and 1Password and gosh be darned and whatever else one you're using, but just this is the path of least resistance. So that's in there. We're gonna come on. Then credit cards. As you add your credit cards to it, if you put a credit card number in, it'll ask if you want it to save the credit card. There's no harm to saving the credit card. You still have to put the CVV code in. The next system preference is search. There are 2 and only 2 searches you should use. Either Google, which gives you great results, or DuckDuckGo.
What?
DuckDuckGo. Did I stutter? So, we all know Google, and Google makes their money by giving you very pertinent search results, and consequently the top 3 ads and the ones on the side, the results will be ads. Don't use Yahoo search. Don't use Bing search. They're crap. If I go to somewhere and I want to find something, I always get the results I need with Google. And part of the reason is the way Google works, and the reason, so if I go to look for a Chevy Volt, I don't want Ford Mustangs to show up, do I? But people try to game the system. The Ford dealer is trying to get, oh, look, I've got this Ford Focus plug-in. I want you to do that. Well, you search for Chevy Volt. So your results are what's pertinent to you. So what happens is Google makes it very difficult for people to game the algorithm. And what they say is that as everybody that searches for Chevy Volt, well, they show the top results. And as you click on those results, that says those must be pertinent results. So it brings whatever results people decide they get, it brings it to the top. That's why their algorithm stays so good and so current. DuckDuckGo that gives no tracking or anything else, and it gives very pertinent search results. I still default to Google. Okay. Yes, if I search for Chevy Volt, it shows up where the Sacramento Chevy dealers are nearby and things like that. But so what? That's pertinent. Google is not tracking you. They're just, the only reason people think that is because Google says and lets everyone know what they do, and none of the other companies say. They hide what they're doing. So it always looks like Google's doing more and trying to be that, but it's the best. And Bing and Yahoo just give you erroneous results. In fact, if I went to say go to try find Adobe Flash to download, I may get sites that are not good sites show up. We're going to go into search in a minute here after the Safari thing.
Ken, when you said in that pull-down menu, how do you designate? Is it
Click on whichever one you want.
And can you check multiple ones or just
No,
one?
only one. But you can go, but on the other hand, let's say you have DuckDuckGo as your search engine, you can still go to google.com and search. When we get into search, ask that question again and we'll do it there. So the rest of the name is just have all of these checked. Security, I would leave the defaults on here, just have them all checked. Privacy, this is, people are all worried about cookies. Cookies don't mean the cookie monster is going to come get you. Don't worry about cookies, but the default is to have it from sites that you visit rather than outside cookies come in. Cookies are useful. You can decide to not do cookies. I'm going to talk to you in a minute about private browsing, which will make it so you'll get no cookies and no following.
Is there any time you should eliminate all cookies and start over again?
Some people think you should. I don't. It's kind of, I don't know. I've eaten a lot of cookies in my life, and so they add up in time, but they go away after a while. So notifications. A lot of times you'll visit a website that says, "Hey, would you like to turn on notifications?" And what notifications would be is, let's say there's a new article posted at some website. To me, that gets in the way. If I want to go read what's at a website, I'll go to that website. I don't need a notification telling me there's a new article about the latest thing in yeast. And so I tell it never on any of those notifications. Extensions. Extensions can be used in Safari. I don't encourage them, but there are some extensions that can be useful. All you would do here is you would go down here and say get extensions, and you can see it. You can research it on your own. Okay? I don't see a need for a lot of extensions, but there are some things that can, there's some useful ones that can be out there. The last one is advanced. There's really not a lot in here. Just leave it like it is. Go ahead.
On your privacy, you ever just go back and delete all the cookies?
Somebody asked that. No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No, I don't. I find no need. Why would you want to? You've read an article at one time that says you should. Okay?
My grandkids use the machine and I end up with 500.
How do you know you have cookies?
Look at the account up there. All of a sudden I have 1,800 or 1,500 cookies. I think, where do those come from?
Well, if you don't look at it, you won't know they're there.
Pardon?
If you don't look at it, you won't know they're there.
So periodically I just shoot them all. Because
Why?
It's going to make new ones when I go to a website.
But why would you get rid of them?
Why get rid of them?
Yeah,
Reduce the amount of clutter on my system.
not really. They're so inconsequential. That's, you know, that's like saying, okay, I'm gonna make all my Word documents with half the letters I normally do. You think that'll save much room? Doesn't. Why put yourself through all this extra worry and stuff? Just use it. They take up no room. Data, it's incremental amount of data that it's just.
You're going to put a world full of alarmists out of business here at the rate you go.
Well, isn't that why we're on a Mac?
Yeah.
So why overburden ourselves with that and just do it? Of course, I'm also the guy that has 120,000 emails in his inbox, but you know. So that's, you know. But no, it's, what do I have? 400. I have 427 websites and other data. You can do it if you want. I'm just saying, but don't. I'm afraid some people get obsessed with it. Don't. If you want to clear your cookies, go ahead. Cookies can be useful because when you go back and visit a site, it'll tell you. Now, unfortunately, you go into places and you'll go buy something from Amazon, and for the next 5 months, when you go to a website, it's going to show you that thing you bought, and then you really get pissed if the price went down. You know, so.
So if you wanted to remove the cookies, you press remove all
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, and there's another place you can do it in Safari is if you go up here and go to, clear, you can clear your history, which is one thing. And we're going to go into private browsing right now about that. So let's.
Isn't that a good idea considering?
So and you had kids come over and use your computer. Don't let them use your user. Create a secondary user. In fact, all the Macs come with the ability to have a guest user. And the beauty of a guest user is you let the user log into the guest user. It never has a password. And when they log out of the guest user, it clears everything, including all those cookies. It always goes back to scratch. So let me show you in System Preferences. If you go to Users and Groups, you have a guest user here you can turn on. And again, the guest user, see, I can't do switching users because it would screw up what we're recording. But if you have the guest user, they just flop over to the guest user. They use the computer all they want. All your data is protected. And anything they do, whether they download a bunch of music, they download nefarious stuff, they set bookmarks and everything else, when you log out of the guest user, it says, hey, I'm going to delete all this stuff, and boom. And it's not taking up extra room on your computer. If they come over and borrow your computer a lot, create a separate user for them. That way they're not, I mean, you got to, let's take a look at the psychology of that. Let's look at a typical household. You may have a husband and wife or a spouse or a partner that one person's a good computer user and the other one's an adequate computer user. Well, the person that's not such a good computer user is constantly under fear that they're going to screw up something for the other user. Okay? So don't put that undue burden on them. Get them their own separate side that can't mess up what someone's doing. And if you have separate users, what's really cool is, let's say you've been working on an article for quite a while and you've been 2 weeks writing this paper and you haven't been judicious about saving. And somebody comes along and they decide to quit and say, don't save. Oops. But if you have a separate user, what happens is, you're in that separate user, that person's in that user, the other person's stuff is still open, And in fact, the other person cannot restart the computer without logging into the other user and shutting down things that are. And of course, when you shut down, it usually asks if you want to save. So it takes up no extra room on your computer. All the applications that can be used by one user are used by all users on the computer. The only thing that's not shared is the data. All the applications are shared.
I'm
So,
sorry, I don't understand how you set up.
so you just go down here, and you would unclick the lock
Oh,
and put in your. And then when I create, so now I could turn on guest user, allow users to enable, and you can say they can do shared folders. The other thing is if I hit a plus, now I come down here, let's say it's somebody you don't want to have administrative privileges, you keep it at standard, or you just go ahead, you have parental controls. I could set up a new user with administrator privileges. I would put a name in here and put in a password, and I would create that user. And then the beauty is having these users, you can swap back and forth between the two. And you can have the computer automatically log into whichever user you want. So enough of users on this, but it's a great way to make that not be an issue. And I would encourage it because the kids wouldn't want to inadvertently delete a file that you have, but they might mistakenly delete a file you have.
If you have a house guest who just wants to check their email, you
Put-
can switch to.
Put it in guest user. But also for these kids, because I mean, again, what happens if they drag something to the trash that you've been working on that gets thrown away? Just have them, everyone is sequestered in their own little part of the computer that way.
where was that window that had the standard administration?
So when you go into System Preferences, Users and Groups, and then once you unlock the lock, you hit plus to create a new user, and that's when you get the choice. Okay? And you can always play with this. You can create a new user just to have fun with it and see. Also, it's a great troubleshooting tool. A lot of times people have issues with their computer. For instance,
so that
like,
box just comes up.
yes.
When you
Yeah. So like you had issues with your keychain. I would go in and I could create a brand new user and see if the problem someone is having is the problems with their current user or if it's a system-wide problem. So I create a new user to test things. And if everything works on the new user, we know the problem is with the user, not with system-wide on the computer. Okay? So, all right. So let's talk about, you've got somebody in the family's birthday coming up and you don't have separate users on your computer. And you want to shop for that person's birthday. And you know that if they come back into your computer, they can go, look, it's kind of like peeking in the Christmas presents that are wrapped under the tree. You don't want them to see what you're getting them. So we could go up to here to Safari and say New Private Window. And now everything I do in this new private window, you notice the look has changed, the color a little bit. Everything I do in this new private window is 100% completely private and secure. There are no cookies, there are no history, there's nothing else that's left behind on that. So if you really want to make sure you're worried about everything, put a private window in and just always work in a private window and nobody tracks you. Nothing can go on. You're safe and secure, and when you close that window, all the little breadcrumbs you left are gone.
Does that mean that the site you're going to isn't aware that you've been there?
What part of nothing follows you? Great question, but no, yeah, it doesn't.
I'm sorry, I guess what.
Well, if you sign in, obviously they know you were there. But if you don't sign in, you've left no breadcrumbs. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm taking notes while you're bringing
Well, it's
up
all
other
being
things.
recorded too.
Uh-huh.
It's all being recorded. You can go over the record of this. So what is it? What's your question?
Oh, okay, well, I was just wondering how you got to that.
Okay, I'll do it again. File, new private window. And that creates a new private window. So why don't we read what it says? Safari will keep your browsing history private for all tabs in this window. After you close the window, Safari won't remember the pages you visited and your search history or your autofill information. Okay? Huh?
I wish I had something I wanted to keep private. That sounds fun.
Well, you'll have to think of something to make sure, you know.
Just to do.
Do you have any pets?
Pets?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, see, because you're going to keep it private from them. So. All right, so that's what, and it's actually called secure private browsing. It's no breadcrumbs, okay? And you can operate that way all you want. All right, so I'm going to go up. We're in Safari now, and for the last 3 or 4 operating systems, this is what's called a unified search bar. Remember, we used to have the search bar on the right in the little window, and then we would have the websites in the middle. Now everything's right in the center. So I'm going to, and this is going to dabble into search a little bit. But let's, if I click on the bar, well, actually, it used to be now where you would, if you'd click up in the bar, it wouldn't highlight the whole thing. As soon as you click on it, it highlights the entire bar. So all that means is I can just start typing, right? I don't have to hit the delete key. I see people do that. I see them try to delete everything up there. It's highlighted. So the next thing I do will overwrite anything that's there. So I'm going to just start typing best apple pie. And now, you'll notice I'm getting suggestions here. The suggested website for best apple pie comes to there. And then if you'll notice, under Google search, the suggestions are based on the letters that I've typed, what other people have searched for under there. But then you'll notice it says Sacramento. Big Brother knows I'm in Sacramento. Actually, what it is because I'm connected to the Wi-Fi here, and this Wi-Fi uses a certain internet service provider. It knows the locale of that. So while that may seem spooky, but if I was looking for the best apple pie in Sacramento, wouldn't that be very useful? I'm curious. Actually, I'm going to do the same thing in private browsing. So, look at that. I put in the exact same words in private browsing. It doesn't know I'm in Sacramento. Don't tell anybody. So see, it doesn't do the autofill because it's not going out and polling Google. Okay? Now, obviously, if I hit, let's try, let's do best apple pie. And now when I get results, say, let's go back and look at it without private browsing. And hit results. And it didn't give me Sacramento, which is kind of surprising. But remember how the autofill started to say Sacramento, but it didn't do it in private browsing. So the auto suggest is going out and hitting Google in real time and saying what have other people searched for. And it always works too because it's going to correct your spelling for you and do different things like that. So look for those, let them fill in, but don't be so quick to keep typing apple pie recipe, and you can go down here and choose one of these, okay? All right, so does anybody remember, actually I'm going to start going into, I'm doing this a little out of order, but this is actually because we're doing search also, and I'm going to do a full search thing at the end, but I don't want to miss this. Does anybody remember the CDs for the clip art? And you'd get 35 CDs, and you'd get this Encyclopedia Britannica book that you could go through and see what clip art you wanted to use. Well, that's so 3 decades ago. I'm going to go search for apple pie. And I'm going to hit return, and this gives me a Google result. And if you look at the second thing here, it says images. So when I click on images, look at this.
Class is adjourned.
But and I always use apple pie because if you look at this, this looks like a Mac Mini, an apple pie made into a Mac Mini. But isn't this so much easier than going to that catalog and going through here? So let's talk about this image search here for a second. So I have just searched for apple pie. Normally it just searched on the web, so I clicked images, and actually what happens is you'll notice Google will sometimes now just talking about apple pie. We'll click on images, and they even give some suggestion. Here's clip art, here's a slice, here's American apple pie, here's Dutch apple pie, here's ice cream apple pie. But you'll notice a little thing here called search tools. So when I click on search tools, if I'm gonna, now, what you do with the stuff you find here is your own responsibility. If you're gonna do something non-commercial, you can use this stuff all you want. If you're gonna do something commercial, it's up to you to respect the copyright authorities and what is copyrighted. I'm gonna show you about stock photography and stock art here in a second. But if you're just doing something real fun, and you want to do it, go ahead. But the first criteria is size. So if I'm going to do something that's kind of big, I can say only give me images that are large. And when you see large, they're on my screen, but if you'll notice when I hover over it, it shows me what size that image is. That's a huge image right there. So let's click on that. So I clicked on the image. Now I'm going to go over here and say View Image. And when I say View Image, I have a feeling my cursor is also going to have a plus sign on it in a second. So you can see how long this takes to download. It means it's a very large file. So you'll notice my cursor also has a plus sign on it. So when I hit the plus sign, that's what they mean when they say big image. You can really, really zoom in. And that's going to be it's just like taking something with a very high megapixel camera versus a low megapixel camera. Okay? So you also see here they give you some other similar suggestions, which is nice. For image search, nothing beats Google. Google does a great job with this. So let's go ahead and put it back into all, any size. The other thing is, when I go to search tools, this isn't appropriate here, but it can say, give me ones that look like they're more blue. And we're probably not going to get a lot of blue. So if you're looking for cars, let's say, in fact, let's do cars. Let's do Tesla. Tesla Model S. Yeah. Because it's a car. So look at that. Look at all the blue ones. Let's say I want to go signature red. There's the red ones. Okay? Now, let's go back and just do cars generically. That was red again. So I'm going to say any. And now, I'm not going to worry about videos right now. Oh, I'm going to go back to search tools. Now type. There are photos, clip art, and line drawing are the ones. So photos are obviously photos. This is just going to search for photos of cars, even though these are photos, but they're really drawings. Let's go look for clip art. Clip art is usually the stuff you notice kind of cartoony, but what I want to find here is I want to find one that has a watermark on it. Can you barely see how there's a watermark? See the watermark here? So what that watermark is, this is a place where you pay to use the image. Now, if you're real good in Pages, you could remove that watermark and things like that. Most of them aren't this simple, but what it is, it's like a stamp over it. Photographers use it so people don't steal their photos and things like that. So, there's plenty of things out there that don't have watermarks on them, so if you're trying to do something like that, go ahead and find it. I'm looking for another watermark. You'll find it in clip art quite a bit. So let's go up to the next search term was line drawing. Oh, and by the way, so photos, remember how we got a large photo and that would scale very well. But if we started with a small photo and tried to blow it up, it's going to get very granulated and pixelated. So clip art is usually vector based and it actually does pretty well. Line art, which is the next one, scales very well. You can blow these up if you're putting them in pages or something else and you're trying to make them bigger or smaller. So line art's very good. You can make kids coloring books and things like that with this. So that's your image search. Forget about time. Usage rights. This would be labeled for use with modification, labeled for use, labeled non-commercial reuse. So this is going to help get you through that whole copyright infringement issue if you decide to choose the rights there. And actually, I haven't looked at more tools. Oh, just show sizes and then clear. So the largest clip art catalog in the world, and the best part about it is, let's say I want to look for car batteries. I mean, you can get very granular. Boom, there's clip art of car. But actually what I'll do is, let's say, let's do skier, comic. And you'll get comical skier things. So clip art's a good one for that. Okay? And then to get them is one thing. So let's just take, well, everybody wears a helmet skiing now, so we'll grab this one. So I'm just clicked on that. Now I'm going to click View Image. And now, and this you can see has a little bit of watermarking around it. I don't care about that for what we're going to do here. Actually, there it is, blown up. I'll put it back down. Now, if I control click, right click, or two finger click, look at what my choices are. I can save the image to download it. I can save the image as, like if I want to save it to my desktop. I can save the image directly to photos. Now, if you're making a one-time card, don't save it to photos because you don't need to. I can use the image as my desktop picture. I can copy the image address. You don't care about that so much. Actually, we can pull down a chair back there if you'd like to sit.
No, thank you.
Okay. The image address just means the website address. You don't really need that. But copy image. Let's watch what happens if I copy this image. So I'm going to copy that image, and now I'm going to fire up a brand new email, and I'm going to create a new message, and I'm going to paste it right there.
Where does it save it? Where it said save as in photos? Where does it save it? To the program photo?
Correct. And if you've got the older version, you're running iPhoto, it would say save to iPhoto. And it just pops it up and puts it right into iPhoto for you or Photos, which is great. But again, rather than clog up your library like that, I only do that with images that I'm probably going to use again at some other time. If it's a one-time only image, I just copy it to my clipboard for right now.
If it has a watermark, at what point do you get charged or told not to use it?
Charged by the police?
I don't know.
Or charged money. No, what happens is, if it's a stock photography site, what you do, or a stock site, you would go there and request usage if you're going to do commercial use of it. But if you're going to do non-commercial use of it, you can go ahead and grab it, and you don't get charged for what you just did, obviously, because this one had watermarking on it. But and I see businesses do this all the time. They'll build a website and they have clip art on there with watermarks on it. That's considered bad form, and they're likely to get a cease and desist order if it's found, because there's the capability. You just saw, we just searched for images. There's people that could go out and go find their image. And if they find their image, they'll try to do it. So, if it's for non-commercial use, you're probably okay. Yes.
What is the, to save an image, should you save it to your desktop or dashboard, and what's the difference?
Wherever you want. Well, not dashboard.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's what you said, you put it on dashboard.
No, to downloads.
Yeah.
Or just save image as and save it to your desktop. When you hit save image as, you get the save dialog box that comes up, and it'll say where do you want to put
I
it.
misunderstood about the dashboard. Thank you.
Yeah, dashboard is kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know why you'd want it on.
No, I I just thought that's what you said and I was confused.
No problem. Okay, 10:04. So let's go a couple more minutes. That was image search, private browsing we talked about. Okay, before the break, I'm going to give you the best thing you'll learn today. Did you have a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just got on the Yosemite and now I'm on El Capitan. And
Doesn't matter what you're on.
I understand all those little squares that are underneath there when you typed in underneath, when you typed the address, there was all these squares.
Like here? Squares.
No, go the last image that you
All these?
No, when you type something into the address bar. Yeah, all of those.
Oh.
Where did all those come from?
Yeah, those are what those are is your most recently viewed site or your bookmarks that just show up. They're kind of giving you, they're saying, hey, do you want to click on these because you've saved them? It's an easier way to get to your bookmarks.
Okay, you don't have to put them there.
No, they populate.
Like if there's something that you want there to conveniently click on.
If you save it as a bookmark, it'll show up here.
So you just
no.
go under bookmarks and say bookmark.
Correct. Well, actually, to save a bookmark, you can go to bookmark, or you actually go over here. Hang on. I'll just go to CNN. And see the little plus sign right here? Here's our, CNN would like to send me notifications. No. Okay. But you'll notice here, when I hover up here, the little plus sign, see the plus sign? That's add it to bookmarks.
And then to get it out of there,
Get it out of where?
you decide you don't want that anymore, you just pull it out of there.
You go into bookmarks, and you go to edit bookmarks. And they're right here, and you simply click on it and hit your delete key.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
But you can also save them to your reading list from that.
Correct. We'll get into that. Okay. So we're at CNN.com. And it's not that we're at CNN.com. Oh, terms of service have changed. That's great. We're going to go down here and say, we're going to click on this 663. My lottery ticket was damaged and they wouldn't take it. So I'm going to click on that article. And you'll notice what happens up here in the very top. I have these 3 lines now, or 5 lines. Watch what happens. So here's this. We're at CNN. So it's got all this mortgage rate on the other side. Mortgage rates, that's higher than they've been, and all this other garbage, right? Come on. I hate autoplay. So now, if I click on these little, it's called Reader. Watch what happens. Aha. So are you glad you paid so much for today's class now? Nope. You're going to have to stay after. So let's first of all go through this. We're at CNN. It does not have Reader up there because this is really a table of contents. There'd be nothing to collate, right? So if I click there, now I get Reader. Actually, I get Reader. Let's make sure the video doesn't play again. So you notice here these little lines. Let's stop the. So if I click the lines, I get Reader. Oh, come on. See, a video doesn't do it either, so hang on here.
Bravo, Ken. This has been so informative. I mean.
So let's go in now and show you what happens when I go to CNN on my iPad.
This only work with CNN, or is this?
No, most websites will do this, but you're going to get so used to it and love it when a website doesn't have Reader, you're going to get angry. Just remember, just be thankful for the sites that do have it. So if I go to CNN.com on my iPad, And then I'll go to the same. Oh, here we go. Even Siri gets sexually harassed. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's see what that says. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. So now you'll notice it's loading. And now I get the little lines. And looking on the iPad how clean that is. Now, let's go back and let's look a little more practical. Let's say you wanted to print. Actually, we'll go to the Siri one again. So they're both the same. So now if I hit, so if I wanted to print this, by the way, you're going to see a print dialog box come up. You notice how it's small like this? The first time you print in any Apple program, make sure you hit show details so you get the full thing, and now it will always be that way. But if you look at this, that's 7 pages, right? Boom, boom, boom. Look at all that crap. You don't want all that. So let's go into Reader, and now let's see what it would look like printed. It's going to be 2 pages. Now, I just saved you so much ink and stuff that you don't need, and how clean is that? And then if we go over to it on the iPad, I can zoom it in and do specifically like that. It's just so much cleaner. All right, now.
How do you get your dock on the side?
That'd be the dock class. You go to System Preferences, Dock, and then Position on Left. And actually, if you don't have your dock on the side, you should. You're pretty new to the Mac, so it won't break down anything. But here's what you have to remember. Your Mac screen is built, your iPad screen, your Mac screen is built just like me. It's wider than it is tall, okay? So you've got all this extra width. Move the dock over out of the way, because otherwise you're constantly bumping into it. Look at what I've got on my screen. If I move my dock down to the bottom, look at how much it gets in the way. I go up to System Preferences, I click on Dock, and say Position on Bottom. Look at all that room it's taking up. And our vertical space is very important. We have tons of space left the other way.
Yes, but you can read them on the bottom.
Who cares if you can read them?
They get really tiny over on the.
Well, then why don't you turn magnification on and go like this? And you don't need to read them. You know by position, and you never need to really go to the dock, because if you ever want to go to any application at all, you simply go up into the right-hand corner and just start typing the name of the application, Pages, and boom, it's right there. Okay, so since we're going to break, I'm going to show you this. Tease you.
Harrison is one of the writers who creates Cortana's dialogue in the UX and additions, writing jokes and coming up with casual banter. Her team has to figure out the best way to shut down all the conversations.
I'm sorry, but you can't hear. So it's speaking the text. Okay, come back in about 10 minutes if you could, please. I'll quit the, oh God, I got to turn off magnification. On your Mac, when you highlight something, and you right click on it, you can tell it to start speaking. If you're building something in Pages, that works really well too, because then you can have it proofread it back to you. And a little proofreading tip, if you're not sure you spelled things right, start at the back and read backwards.
Ken, how do you right click with the trackpad?
Two-finger click on, great question. So how do you right-click? It's called secondary click, and like with everything Apple, there's many ways to accomplish it. You can control left click, gets you a contextual menu, the equivalent to right click. On a trackpad, it's two-finger click, or on a mouse, if you've set your mouse up to it, it's not by default, but if you set your mouse up to it, you click the right side of the mouse, and that gives you the contextual menu like this. And the contextual menu is contextual to whatever you're doing. Because see, I could hit copy, I can hit speech or whatever, so.
P.S. You get your Mac experience back. Malware runs anti-malware scans for and removes code that degrades system performance or attacks your system.
All right, I want to point out one thing on this webpage here. If you'll notice, don't ever download anything from Mac Update or from CNN or CNET or download.com, because they will put other crap in the download that will cause you problems. You want to go like in this one, Adware Medic, or you'll notice here, imore.com. Other than Google, imore.com is going to be your best resource for anything you want to do on any Apple device. They're wonderful. We've had Serenity Caldwell speak at the general meeting. We've had Renee Ritchie. They're both from imore.com, and it's the new best publication, and they have great podcasts and everything else. So imore.com is the best. And what I do now is, since we're going to talk about search a little bit, is if I want to go search, let's see, how to use Siri iMore. So I just put in iMore. If I just spelled Siri right. See, how to use Siri, imore.com. And now I do a Google search of that, and look at this. It comes in here in imore.com and Siri. So if I want to just search Apple's website. Well, the other thing is, whenever you're going to go, so first of all, the calls, you guys all call, hey, Ken, how do I do this? I'm having problems with this. Well, if you email me a crazy question that you could have searched yourself, I may decide to send you back something. So I'm going to go to this Google website and I say, what is Siri? Okay? So if you send me a question that you could have Googled yourself, and I send you back something that looks like this, watch what'll happen. This is called Let Me Google That for You. So when I return that, here's what you're going to get. In other words, you could have done it yourself. Let me Google that for you. But when you go to search for something like, how do I rename a file, let's say, just say, how do I rename a file Mac? Because otherwise you're going to get a bunch of PC ones. How do I spell check a Pages document? Obviously, it would be that. You know, you just go there. You just put in Google search what you want. But I'm going to talk more about search in a second. Let's see, I've done autofill password. Okay, Adobe Flash we touched on briefly. I'm going to show you the only way you should ever update your Adobe Flash if you feel you have to have Flash. Go to System Preferences on your Mac. And of course, I don't have Flash on here. So in System Preferences, this is, again, I haven't put Flash on this computer. You'll have one of these that'll say Adobe Flash. And if you click on it there, that's how you check for your updates. Only do it from there, because guaranteed it will get you to the right site. If I went and searched for Adobe Flash, I may get a wrong one. Or you may get a pop-up that says, to use this site, you need to have Adobe Flash. Don't click on those links, because it's gonna try circumvent what you're doing. Go ahead, Charles.
Is there anything other app besides Flash that we could use? Adobe Flash?
No. Any other Adobe apps?
No, anything that will do what Adobe Flash does.
No, Adobe Flash is its own. No, because there's nothing in the world as bad as Adobe Flash, so they wouldn't. Other people wouldn't make it. So
But there were some things you have to use it to get into. That's my question.
you don't have to. If you want to see a video from a lazy web designer, yes. But I'm keeping Flash off my devices. If I have to go to a website that has Flash, I fire up Google Chrome.
You use it through Chrome.
In Chrome has its own Flash built in, but it'll be ending soon. Flash is going to go away. I don't know if you remember years and years ago, one of the last big rants from Steve Jobs is he hated Flash so much, and they said, we're not putting Flash on anything we have iOS device because it would have made the battery life of this last about 10 minutes.
So Chrome has a built-in.
Correct.
program.
And it's sandboxed. It's Flash, but it's sandboxed. Go ahead.
Where did you go in system prep? I couldn't follow.
Well, it's not there.
Oh,
You'd have a little one that says Adobe Flash. Once you've installed Adobe Flash, it'll put it in system preferences. But I just haven't installed Flash in this because I don't need it.
Since you disparaged Flash a little bit, should we?
A little bit? I wasn't demonstrative enough of it. Me, I was so meek about how I don't like Flash. Okay, I'll get a little bit stronger on it.
You know, if I haven't, I say, okay, well, yeah, probably not just get rid of it.
No, you don't, yes, there's ways to get rid of it, but here's the deal. I'm involved with the other Mac user group up in Lincoln Hills where I live, and two of the tech guys there have decided to embark on going and removing Flash from people's computers. My problem with that is, if you already have Flash, it might need updating. If you do it the correct way, it'll update fine. But if you remove it, you're going to go to a website and it says, well, to see what's on this website, you're going to need to go Adobe Flash. And when you go click on it to download Adobe Flash, you're more likely going to go get something that's not right. And I'd hate, to me, that's worse. The cure is worse than the symptoms, you know. So I'm not saying remove it. Don't install it if you have an option. If you have an option, you don't need to install it. But again, you can use Google Chrome. It's a year from now, we're not going to have this discussion because it's going to be gone. It's just not going to be used. Because what it is everything it does is built into the modern browser called HTML5, which is very safe, very secure, and doesn't need to be updated. So, without getting on any more of a rant than that.
Well, I'm sorry to ask this question. If you don't want to address it, okay. But you said I don't need Adobe Acrobat. That
Acrobat is not Flash.
Right, but I don't need Acrobat.
So this is valid. It's a good question. So you also go to websites, and especially if you go to a government website, you have to download a form. Like I was looking at because I'm going to China in May, I have to get a visa, and it says, oh, you got to have Adobe Acrobat to review this form. No, you don't. Every Mac has Preview built in, and Preview is the best app for reading that. So if it says you need to, just say no, you don't need to. And when you download the PDF, it opens up in Apple's Preview. Okay. The problem with Acrobat Reader is not the same problem as Flash. It's not vulnerable. But the problem is if you put Acrobat Reader on your damn computer, every 3 days it's going to say you need a new update. And that thing sits on your dock. Brunk, 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 brunk. I mean, come on. Look, Adobe is not your friend. No matter what they do, they're not your friend. Okay?
Amen.
So.
And they don't give you any support for Acrobat or anything like that. So.
They're not your friend.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Autofill passwords. Oh, so the other thing is let's go in. I'm going to fire up a new browser window. Tabbed browsing is the best thing since sliced bread. So we're going to go here and we're going to look at, let's go back to our apple pie recipe. So I do a Google search for apple pie recipe. Now I could click on this one and say, oh, I wait for it to load. And especially like I was down in Columbia, boy, I had sucky internet down there for a while. And it would take forever for pages to load. So especially pictures like this, I'd still be waiting. But what you can do is, so I clicked on that, that's not the one I want. So I hit the back arrow and I go back to my list. I go to the next one. and we've got decent internet today, and oh, nope, that's not the one I want. What you do is you take one of your fingers, I don't care which one it is, hopefully it's clean, and you hold down the command key, and when I go to click on this one, you'll notice a new tab opened up, like a file folder tab here. And then I click on this one, and then I click on this one. When I was down there in Colombia, I would get a bunch of these loading behind so that they're loading when I went and made a sandwich and came back because it was really slow internet. And then I can just go right here to each tab. And each tab is what I want. Let's say I go to this tab and I go, okay. And Chrome does the same thing, by the way. And these are loading slow. So then I go back here and I go, okay. New thing in Safari. See the little speaker right up here? I can hit the mute there. See, I don't know which of my tabs is open, but look over here. There's a speaker on this tab. And I can mute that tab. That was unexpected. This is new in El Capitan that you can do that. Because inevitably, I usually have lots of tabs open and lots of windows, and so therefore I can locate which one it is. Because inevitably, you'd quit Safari, fire Safari back up, these all go, and you don't know where that video and that stuff's coming from. So now it shows you on top of the tab. Okay? So let's say this is the one I don't want. If I hover my cursor right up there, over there, it becomes an X. It gets rid of that tab. Gets rid of that tab, each tab. Or you can obviously go up here and your cheat menu is close window, Command W closes the tab. Okay? So you open a bunch of tabs, and then let's say I want to change the order of the tab. I just grab this tab and put it over this. And then I'm going to show you how to do tab browsing on your iOS device. So, get my iPad up there. Because tab browsing is very helpful in an iOS device also. So if I'm on my iOS device, you can see I have tabs across the top, and I can slide across them. But let's say I have a link here. Here's a link to something else. En route from China is the biggest container ship ever. So if I press and hold, remember we did Command Tab to open new tabs? Here I press and hold and it says open in new tab. And it opens that in the new tab. You see that it opened behind it. The next tab to the right was this was the biggest container ship. Okay, so I'll do that again. I'm going to do this article in the upper right corner there. Press and hold, open in new tab. And you'll notice it opens in a new tab right behind it. Okay? A lot of times, like I read a lot on different forums. I'm on the Tesla forum, I'm on the Mac forums a lot and things like that. And they'll have a bunch of different things. I press and hold and let them load those behind so I don't lose the page I'm on. And then I go through and click on them and read them. And then when I'm done reading it, I would simply hit the little X in front of it and got rid of it.
Ken, a lot of time those things are fronts for ads, and when you click on them, you get this ad that you just almost can't get rid of. Is there any way to tell just by looking at that and say, oh, that's a front for an ad? Or
well, actually, you can usually tell, like, let's look down here. See these promoted stories down at the bottom? A lot of times those are clickbait, and those are things that are things like that. So you really got to kind of look at what it is. If it says, this is the greatest cure for cancer ever known. Pretty much a dead giveaway. But you'll get those little things. But that won't prevent that, but it opens up in the tab. But when you go, it just treats it like you had gone to that page itself. It does nothing different by doing the tabs. There are ad blockers out there these days. There's different things like that. Thank God we're on a Mac, because if you're on a PC, it could get really, really ugly. I can remember I got a little story. So that years ago, the whole family went on a cruise for Thanksgiving, my brother and his kids and my mom and dad, and I can't remember if it was Acapulco or Puerto Vallarta, but we got off the boat and there's a little internet cafe there, and this is before iOS devices and stuff, and I wanted to get on and read, and I read one news website, and I put an extra E in the name, or I left out an E, I think what it was. Because I don't know if you are aware, but if you go to whitehouse.com, it's a porn site, but whitehouse.gov is not. So I'm at this little internet cafe where everybody comes off the boat, they get on the little carts, and you walk through this building, and there's about 6 chairs there, about 6 chairs there, and there's just one on the end. So I'm getting on there, and I want to catch up on the news. So I punch in this site on a PC, because that's what I rented there, and I mistyped the very popular website and left out an E. And all of a sudden, these porn images start popping up. And my teenage nephews, I know, are going to start walking behind me and go, oh, God, Uncle Ken. You know, and I'm like trying to cover the monitor. I hit the button to turn the monitor off. So when doing it, I'm thinking, and it was a PC. And basically, the only way to get rid of this is they had to reboot the thing. But it was okay, I'm done now. But, yeah, so there's, you know, it's out there. Not a lot you can do about them, but that's, you get pretty good, and you can see the Tableau and some of these others that just do it. And what they're doing is they're harvesting your eyeballs to get credit for the ads. The freeway billboard. A freeway billboard at the Marconi Curve is a lot more valuable than a freeway billboard out by the old Twin Cities nuclear power plant, right? So it's how many eyeballs it can harvest, and it's the same thing. So the more impressive the headline, and unfortunately that's what's happening with a lot of the bloggers and the journalists these days, because they're getting paid, they get paid by the click. And so, and unfortunately, that's what's causing a lot of the short selling in the stock market and things like that. Because if it bleeds, it leads. You know, as the old news thing. Well, you know, take everything with a bit of a grain of salt. So be more jaded than I am. So anyway, so that's the open in tab. Tab browsing is great because opening up a new window gets a lot of windows open. You can do that, but tab browsing is the best because it's more efficient. And in fact, the beauty of Safari on the iOS device and on the Mac is it's only using whatever is the foremost tab in front. The others are back there in hibernation. So even though that video was kind of running, you heard the audio in the background, it wasn't really taking much of the resources of the machine. Okay? Go ahead.
And how do you get rid of the tabs? When you close?
You just click the X.
Oh.
You have to hover your cursor over the X. See the X comes up right there?
Uh-huh. Okay.
That gets rid of it. And on the iOS device, you simply just tap it. Sometimes it's a tough tap to get it. Actually, I'll show you a really cool thing on the iOS device too. So if I go and I take my fingers like this on the iOS device, that shows all my tabs that are open. I have quite a few tabs open. See that? So that was a 3-finger squeeze. So I'll go tap on one of them again, and then I'll do a 3-finger squeeze. And the other cool thing is, look at this on this is my iPad. It shows me what tabs I have open on my MacBook. It shows me what my 27-inch iMac at home has on it. And on my MacBook Pro that's right here, what tabs are open on it. So I could, in fact, go see, let's look here. I'll just hit, so here's this article, The Big Short. If I tap on that, this was open on my iMac at home. It's not looking at my iMac, it's just saying you had this open, so if you want to go see it. So this handoff, this continuity between all our devices is really pretty useful.
How did you get that on there again?
So I 3-finger pinch. This should be our new salute, right? Instead of this, right? It's just showing what's open there. And actually, it's kind of, so the other thing is, if I go to Safari here, all right, look on my Mac up here. See right here above Finder, see this little Safari right here? Can you see that little Safari logo there? My normal Safari is here, but see this little Safari logo here? That's what's up on my iPad right now. So when I click on this same CNN Money article will come up here, and look at that. So the other thing is, and somebody mentioned it earlier, and it's the last thing we're going to talk about, kind of like bookmarks. And so I'm going to tell you 2 things about bookmarks. Reading list. Reading list is really cool. So many times you'll be looking at something on your Mac or on your iPad, and you want to leave, but you want to revisit it later. Inevitably, yes, if you're going to go to the restroom and you want to finish reading what you were reading, okay, I mean, come on, we've all done it. So you put it on the reading list, and then you can pick it up on your other device. And I'll show you what the reading list looks like. If we click here, so if I click this little sidebar opening and closing on the Safari, I have my bookmarks, I have reading lists, and we won't worry about this one. Reading lists is, you probably don't want to bookmark it because there's something so permanent about bookmarking something, right? But if I want to temporarily bookmark it, I put it in the reading list. And then if it's on my reading list here, so that's camera window. So if I go back to my reflector and let's look on my reading list on my iPad, look at that, it reflects it exactly. So I can pick that up on all. Bookmarks obviously sync if you have it set to sync across all your devices, but the reading list is more of a temporary. So once I read it, I can delete it from the reading list. And the reading list is chronological by the last one that you put on there.
In the search line, quite often I'll try to get the cursor set so that I can type a new entry in to search for.
We're talking about Mac or iOS?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because what happens is all of a sudden some little icon there is going whoosh and showing like it's jumping over to some other area. And I don't know whether that's to the book list or the reading list, or it seems like it's...
When you go to type in at the very top in the URL bar?
In the control line, in the URL line.
Right there?
In there, right. And if I want to put in a new, I want to replace that.
Oh, it starts to autofill.
So I take my cursor and I can't see it.
Well, no, you don't need to do your cursor. You just touch it. See, you're trying to hit it again. First time you tap it, it highlights it. Then just start typing. Forget your cursor.
Oh, forget the cursor?
Yeah, I've highlighted it now. So I could just start typing.
Because my cursor will be at the beginning of that line.
Doesn't matter where your cursor is. The entire line is highlighted. And anytime something's highlighted, the next thing you do will delete what's there and then put what you typed.
But it didn't delete the whole.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It started something new.
Am I inadvertently saving something to
No.
some place when it jumps like that?
No.
Where is it going? It literally, it takes the icon and it moves it like that over to the left.
Oh, you're clicking the plus sign.
Okay. Plus sign.
You're clicking the plus sign at the beginning, which saves it as a bookmark.
As a bookmark.
Yeah, so you don't, so now what you do is, and we'll go back to the Mac and show you, so now I understand. So let's get rid of this sidebar. Let's go to Apple. Now, if I click, see how it becomes a plus? Don't click there. Click anywhere in this whole area right here, and now when I click it, it's highlighted. And just start typing. If you click right at the beginning, it's bookmarking it. And what's weird is the bookmark doesn't show up until you hover over it. So just click, give yourself a bigger target, go click in the middle. Now I understand what was happening. And now, look over to the right here. Well, that was that microphone that we had shut off before. And this other little thing, that just says reload the page. which is Command R. Because sometimes pages will get stuck and it's a little weird and things won't render. You'll get little artifacts. That's reload is what that is. Okie doke. So reading list, reading list is very, 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 very good. Okay. Let's go find a page that's got a lot of information. Let's see. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the refurbished. If you ever need to buy any Mac stuff, go to the refurbished. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to say shop for a refurbished Mac. And here's a whole list of them, okay? So here's a list of these. And I only want to find those that have a Core i5 processor, let's say. So if I go up here to the top, and I put in i5, oh, no, I got to do it different here, I'm sorry. Command F, i5. And you'll notice here, I put in i5, and now it shows me every iteration of where the word i5 is in this list. And as I click through it, it shows me the next, the next, the next, the next, the next. Let's say you're reading an article and you want to look for a specific, or you're reading something that's about a certain person. You put that person's name in. It's going to show you every iteration of that. Let me show you how that happens on an iOS device. Command F for find. Or if you go up here, it's under edit. Find right there, Command F. And that's really useful to find different things. So let's show you on an iOS device. And there's one little trick on an iOS device I'm going to show you. So let's see, this word is Cortana. Oh, this is about Siri. Oh, this is Cortana, which is Apple, or the Microsoft Cortana thing. So I'm going to tap at the very top. Oh, come on. Show up on my screen. What's going on here? Turn mirroring off, turn mirroring on. There we go. So I click on the URL bar at the top, and I'm just going to type the word Cortana. And then as I scroll all the way down, at the very bottom it says find on this page. And when I tap that, it will show me everywhere Cortana is on that page. Okay? See that? So it's a great way to search through that stuff. Just hang on one sec. The other thing that happens is many times when you go on an iOS device, it wants to show you a reduced web page, a mobile web page. I'll go to, I don't know if I have one that'll work for this. Actually, it'd be easier on my phone because it definitely does it on the phone. So if I tap the share arrow, the little box with the arrow coming out of it, and go to request desktop site right here. If it can, it will give you the full regular website and render it accordingly. Amazon's a good example. If you do that on the iPhone and you don't want what it shows you for the mobile, because Amazon pretty well sucks on a regular one. I'll see if I can get this up. Go ahead with your question back there, and I'll do that while I'm trying to get the iPhone up here.
I'm wondering if the Command F or edit find, does that work on pages? So if you were writing,
Yes. Yes. But it's real useful. It's a little different in there. It may not be Command F, but I know it works on there. Okay, so my iPhone should be showing up next to this anytime. time now. There we go. And if I go to Amazon, Amazon.com, you can see it's pretty reduced. So I'm going to go try request the desktop site. We'll see if it does it. I'm not sure if it will on Amazon. Yep. Now you can see it's the full Amazon site. It's not the mobile site any longer. So that's the request. Last thing I'm going to show you in Safari stuff is how to share things in Safari. I'm going to actually get my phone off because that's really made the iPad small. All right. So we'll go back to our CNN.com example, and we're going to go down to the Siri article. So if I want to find that Siri article, I just type F-S-I-R-I, oops, S-I-R-I, geez. There it is. Even Siri gets sexually harassed. So now, we've got this article. I can copy and paste this link into an email for someone, but the best way to do it is to click the little share arrow up here, click on the share arrow, and then come on down and say email this page. And when I email the page, you'll notice that it comes in here and it defaults to reader. I could send it as the full web page if I want, or I can send it as a PDF. Okay? That's the best way to share anything. And I'm going to lose my battery on this, so I'm going to switch to my other device in a second here. If there's any questions right now, ask me while my butt is facing you. Oh, and I'll have to do the recording. Okay, bear with me 1 second here while I switch to my MacBook Pro.